Hey y'all, today let's do a Penn Slammer 760L, which is a live liner. I'm going to start with the spool onto this drag knob to get that off. And now we're going to open these things up. To get that spring off there, we're going to open this up by sticking a flathead screwdriver inside one of the gaps, pushing forward and up, holding your finger over it as you pull up. There's only one drag under there. Now we have 3 screws underneath here to remove the bottom drag. And I can say that as I'm opening this up, just based on what I'm seeing here, I suspect that this person enjoys this reel because it's pretty neat and clean. Alright, so I'm taking it, flip it over into my hand. Didn't get everything, but that's fine. Get those screws out of there. And now we can push down or up. Up. I'll show you where that came from in a sec. This is how you have it looking, kind of like that. That came from inside there. I'll show you how to put that back in when we get that ready to put back in. This looks worn as well, but with some life left on it, so we might end up leaving these things. To clean these off, I think what I'm going to use is some brake cleaner. So I'll be using something that looks like this to clean both those drags off, and then reinstall them after I add new grease. Of course, this is obviously after they're all dried completely and can accept new grease on them. Alright, so I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, so the grease I'm going to use to grease these drags, and I'm using new ones, not the old ones, because there was a little more wear on there than I initially saw on them, is Cal's Universal Drag Grease. I'm just going to put a light coat on each one of these, so we're not going to do a whole, we're not going to lather that on there, we're just going to kind of put it on like this and kind of work it in and then squeeze some of it out. I'm doing both sides of this as well. And same thing for the top drag. Okay, so let's do the top part first. Nice and simple. Drop that in. Get our metal washer on there. We're just going to kind of work one end in and work the rest around in a circular fashion, just like that. I want to make sure it's in the channel it needs to be inside. And it is. Alright, so for this, the line keeper came out. I'll just show you how to put it back in, not just how it came out. So the hole's gonna be like right there. You'll notice on the bottom of this thing there's a little notch on the end of it. See if you can see that right there. That little notch is going inside that hole right there. So look kind of like this. Not like that. Like that. I'm gonna hold it and pinch down on it or push down on it to make sure it sets inside that groove. That should stay in place for now. Alright, so the first thing I'm gonna do is stick this drag washer inside. And I may end up doing it 1 or 2 ways, so I'm not sure yet. Just a little bit of grease around there, because water will collect inside there. A little bit inside that hole right there. That should be good enough, I think. We're going to stick this pin, the way it's going to sit is, if it was a new pin, it would just be all straight and you could just choose whatever end you wanted. Since this is a curved end already, I'm going to use that. Stick that in, looking kind of like this. Put my finger over it, flicking it forward, and it's set, just like that. Let's hope it doesn't fly out on us. That would not be good. I want to make sure I get the right side, so this side does a lot cleaner. I'm going to use that facing down. So I'm going to use it like this, facing up on top of that. This works sometimes, sometimes it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work, we're going to try something else. Fair enough? Alright, cool. Alright, so now I'm going to drop it in. I want to get this pin around, right around here. Because you'll have a little channel on top of this. That little ridge right there, that little groove, that'll be fitting slightly over that line keeper there. So I'm going to be sitting it kind of like this, dropping it down, and then we'll put this over it. Probably around there, I think. Make sure I get my flat spot. That flat spot is going over just like that. over that line keeper, and it looks like we're set, which doesn't happen every single time. So yeah, we look pretty good. Alright, so I'm gonna drop these things in and then screw them in. You could add some grease to the bottom of these screws so that you could protect the holes or the screws from getting corroded inside there. And I do want to make a note here. This may or may not be a long video, but I'm not going to, I'm going to try not to do like a lot of fast forward stuff on this, because I kind of want you guys to see exactly what I'm doing. I've been, over the past few months, trying to reduce the amount of time it takes for a video to be viewed. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Already kind of get the sense for how it is going in and how difficult it might be. We'll see. I say that now and then I change everything up afterwards, so I don't want to promise you anything yet. But there are certain points on here that I would like you to see exactly how difficult it is to get done. So those I definitely will try to not speed up. Okay, so that's secured inside there. Just a little bit of grease inside here will be fine. And if you want to test it out, you certainly could, to make sure everything works properly. And we know it does. Next we'll do the handle. Of course, with all these things, if you want to fast forward through them, you certainly could. You don't have to sit here and watch every single thing that I do. I'm unscrewing this pivot screw here, just so I can open everything up. Then I'm going to clean this stuff out. Sticking some oil inside here. Some along there. I'm just going to spin this knob. Kind of work that in. Let's go and get this cleaned up. Alright, so we're going to add some grease to the top and bottom. Like around here. Around that edge right there. Inside this. And now we can add some grease to that tip right there. Some along the entire shaft. Let's stick some inside there too. Now you'll notice there's one hole that's larger than the other. You're going in through the larger hole towards the smaller hole over here. Alright, so let's go ahead and get to the rotor. I'm going to pull this, I forgot what it's called, lock screw? Set screw? Some sort of locking nut. Locking nut, I think is what it's called. And I pull that set screw out. That only comes out one way. So if you try to pull that one way and it's not coming out, try it the other way and it should come out. Undoing that nut right there. I'm sorry, that screw right there. So that I can get inside and undo that nut. And it's just counterclockwise, I think, to get this off. Yeah. Gonna rock as you pull up. Like so. Alright, I'm gonna undo this screw here. It actually came off. I didn't think it would. Aha, there's one. This one looks scary. This one looks scarier than the first one. This one actually comes off. Yeah, this one's a little scary. I will say that. Alright, it moved. So we're gonna spray down a little bit with some corrosion X. Kind of that work inside there. And the way I like to speed that up is to kind of work this back and forth. So let's do this side first. get that up. You'll see there's a click spring under there. I'll open this cover up so you can see it. I think these screws are all the same size, except for that big one on the top there, but keep everything separate just in case. I'll pull that up like this. Lay that there on that. And for this side, same sort of thing. I'll try to refurbish it slightly. I mean, the flip was okay. It wasn't terrible, but try to get it to be a little bit better. On this side, you just have the click pin. Hope you guys could have seen that when I was doing it, so I hope it wasn't out of focus or off camera there. Pull that out. So for the line roller, I'm going to open this up and make sure that the bearings are still good inside there. This seemed alright when I tried them out. Doesn't mean that they are. But I'll show you what this makeup is, or how it stacks up. That. Your washer. And they came off, that's good. One bearing. The phenol bearing. And that's it. I'll double check these, make sure they're good. You can do it this way. Sometimes it's best to add oil to them and see what they sound like afterwards. I feel like it's probably alright, in all honesty. I'll see you guys in a bit after I clean this stuff up. Alright, so the first thing I want to add is some grease around inside here. And it's around this top part where the lock washer will sit. Alright, so now we can do both of these sides, and we'll do this afterwards, I think. Or I might kind of jump gun and do something else as we get into it. Alright, so with the trip arm, the long part is going to be facing down. Add a little bit of grease. It's kind of all over it. Drop it in through the hole. I just lay it like that. Where it rises all the way to the top. Now we can cover this up. So for this side, we have the arm with the shoulder on top of it. That's going to go inside the spring. There's a brace on the bottom. I believe the both sides of the spring are the same size. So I'm just going to stick it through. Essentially, you want this arm looking like you want to even over that gap right there. Alright, now you'll notice that this is offset. It's not completely centered. So we want to line that hole up with the largest area for the gap. So somewhere around there looks good. So having more to the right would be ideal. I'm going to hold down on this, stick it through that pin, kind of set that down in place. And you need to be in this like kind of position right here to be able to get it to sit or go through that hole properly. I'm going to hold on it, add some grease inside there. Some right here. Over from the top side. Alright, so let's do this side first. Some grease around that post, inside the hole. Even some all the way down inside there because I found some salt deposits inside there. Take our first bearing. We already oiled them, so we're just going to add some grease to the outsides of them to help protect it against getting water intrusion on there. Same sort of deal will be for the line roller. Where those bearings will sit is where I'll add some grease. Now mind you, I did clean these things off already. drop that in, just like that. I like hold of this. You don't need to snug it down yet, just to get it kind of slightly tightened. The runner is good. Let's take that washer back in. Alright, so we're going to start from this side. Add some grease to this hole here as well. This is the side with the trip arm. We're putting the wheel spring on. So we're going to find that hole. Alright, let's take it inside the channel. Kind of rock it over it. Kind of like right around there. We're going to screw that in. That's the same kind of deal for the other side. Just find a hole for it, stick it in, and then rock that back and forth until you find a good groove for it. Alright, so what I did that you have not seen, I apologize, the camera wasn't rolling. I thought it was, and it was not. I undid this clip here. Just know when you open this up, there's two little clips, or sorry, two little O-rings. One says on the bottom, one says on the top. Got that one off, this other one's not coming off. We'll get in a sec. And I was thinking you kind of want to have that live liner mode in the up position before undoing this part. Alright, so let's go and finish up undoing these screws right here. I'm pretty sure all these screws are the same size. We're just going to double check when we pull them out. That's the bottom one, that's the top right, bottom left, and top left. Alright, so now for this, we're going to pull this off. You're going to be a little bit careful with this because you don't want things kind of flying around on you or shooting out. It's not one of those things where it always does it. There's some protocols or protections in place for that not to happen. But still, you still gotta be careful. I'm gonna leave that down like that for now. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna take this apart. Yep, see, that's what you have to worry about right there. But it doesn't really go shoot anywhere where you can't find it. I'm gonna show you this piece in a second, what it looks like when we get all those things out of there. I'm gonna do that screw right there. But the reason you heard that popping sound was because of the spring that was attached to it. Kind of lift that up. Get that out of there. Pull that bearing out of there. Keep all those things separate. Alright, so for this side, we loosened those screws at the top already. I'm gonna do that that screw right there for the shaft. Then we're going to pull that out and then see what else we have inside. Out that comes. Just got a gear. Don't have to worry about that too much. And then you have this. So just kind of pull this up. Just like so. Alright, so now we can do the top part. That little rubber plastic piece you see there, I'm probably going to leave on there. There's no real need to take it off. Hopefully this comes out. Pop it like this, hopefully. Feel like they're moving. Not really. Alright, I'll show you a different trick to getting this out of here. Where's our nut? Take our nut, I'm going to hold down on this part right here, kind of. Screw that in. I like this one because it kind of acts as a, you hold it down here, acts like a reverse kind of press sort of thing. I'm just gonna wedge it under there and work our way up. and it's super tight up in there. Because you can only go so far before this bottom part of the screwdriver kind of affects the bearing or the anti-reverse clutch coming out. So we'll just do the next step. I'll come back to you when this is out. Let's pull this out before I leave you guys, and we'll pull this out as well, and then I'll show you just everything separated, clean up, and then we'll come back and show you how to put everything together. That was difficult. And now we'll do this part here. The way to get this off is I'm just gonna kind of yank this out or pull it out. I don't know, there's not a retainer in there. It's just pretty tight to get out. So we're gonna just pop it off. So you gotta use a little bit of force to get it out, which I don't like. Ugh. Hurts my fingers. Alright, you get the idea. I'll come back to you when it's popped out already. Alright, so we had a little bit of corrosion around here that was just kind of stopping it. I didn't see anything crazy that was too bad that made it that bad to come out. Anyhow, so we started a few different places, so this is not the exact order it's in. So we're just pulling things out as they come out. And when you pull that, you want to make sure you're pulling that straight so you don't damage anything on there. I'm going to pull this out so it doesn't go shooting somewhere on me. Leave it like that. Now we can take that piece, pull it out. So there's a little pin or spring or whatever inside there. We're gonna leave that in there, but we'll clean it out a little bit. Then take it like that. Now we have a metal keyed piece right there. Alright, now to get the rest out, we're simply going to back that up all the way. Turn it until it comes all the way out. And that's how it looks. Put a couple pieces inside there still. So hopefully you guys can see all those things. That's the setup. Alright, so I'll come back to you guys when I've gotten this taken out, all this stuff has been cleaned up, and then I'll show you how to put this stuff back together. Alright, so let's do the rear drag first so I can stick that back inside, not even worry about it anymore. So you have this, we're going to add some grease to. I won't add any inside there, it'll just transfer over. Take that, just kind of stick that in. And turn our fingers whichever way it goes down. Alright, it's all the way to the bottom. I'm gonna stick this washer on there. And now for this, we're gonna take our spring first. And just drop that in there, kind of like that. Now I'm going to take this cylinder here. And you see the stuff that I'm greasing here. You can grease if you want to. You don't have to grease if you don't want to. I'll prefer to grease it versus not greasing it, because it will still add some protection to it. Drop it in the middle of the spring, just like so. On this you'll see two prongs that are longer, or two prongs. Those two prongs will fit in those two corresponding slots there. And I don't need to find it, I just need to just drop it in there somehow. Kind of like that. I'm going to push down it to make sure it's kind of keyed just over that cylinder. That looks good. For this, I'm not going to do anything to it. It doesn't have a lot of force going onto it, but I'm going to start at the top now. So at the top, we're going to have the ratchet. Stick some grease inside the hole. I don't want to grease inside the channel where the ratchet will sit inside the inside this cam here. But I'm going to grease around it and then stick this little Teflon washer on top of it. Now I'm going to stick this pin in. Just going to squeeze it. Now I say I'm just going to squeeze it, but it can be scary sometimes too, so I want to protect it so it doesn't go flying somewhere. Squeeze it, push it in, make sure it goes all the way to the bottom like that. And I'm going to stick this inside of it. This is key, so you need to find a hole for it. Make sure it goes all the way through and is coming out the other side looking like that. You can take our metal washer, take this. You'll notice that that little notch right there is going to get in the way when we start putting this inside. So what we're going to do is drop it inside one of those channels there like that. I might move that metal washer out of the way. I don't know if I will or not yet. And then I'm going to take one of my small screwdrivers, push that pin in until where I can push the entire setup down and it's sitting flush. If you keep that metal washer on there, make sure it stays keyed looking just like that. Now we can drop that on top of that like that. And I'm going to hold them kind of sideways. Line up either one of those two lines there or two lines there. And we're going to rotate it until it drops in place. It just dropped in place. All I have left to do here is just kind of move that O-ring towards the bottom. And now I'll add a little bit of grease inside here. This had a lot of corrosion inside of it, so that was a hindrance for it earlier on coming out. Kind of like that, and that should work. Now I want to take that flat side, or just deeper side, facing outwards towards me. If I'm looking at it like this, dropping that in there. I want to make sure that I want to make sure that rubber seal stays towards the bottom, because that's what's going to kind of protect it from getting saltwater intrusion inside there. Just push, push, and push some more. And that's set. Alright, good. Alright, now I'm going to clean the rest of the stuff up, have a nice clean slate to when I come back to you guys, so I can show you the rest of the stuff. Here's a little introduction. Whenever you have this stack, the pinion stack frozen together, you always want to check the edges of those sides there to make sure they're not really rounding out, because sometimes what happens is that's what's happening, and it's not a situation where it's just frozen on there, you just take it off and put it back on and it works. You need to replace the pinion gear because it's starting to round out, and that's not good for the pinion gear. It needs to be keyed the way it's supposed to be. Just a little side note, this one's not, but in the future if you get something like that, you want to just double check that just to make sure. Okay, no gloves from here on out. So I'll clean all this stuff up. I'm going to start by by oiling these two bearings here. I'm doing the pinion stack first. I cleaned off the inside of that AR clutch there. I'm just going to kind of work that in. And for the AR clutch, I'm going to add 4 drops. 1, 2, 3. That should suffice. Stick this inside, but before I do that, I want to show you what it looks like. There's a deep socketed pocket on one side versus the other. That pocket's going to be facing down. Stick that in. I'm going to kind of work that in. And you can put oil in these things. You just want to put, you don't want to put too much oil in it because you don't want it to start slipping on you. So a couple drops will just should be enough for you if you're cleaning it out. Alright, so for the pinion gear, I'm going to grease the entire thing. So let's grease inside here. And I'm going to lather that grease inside. You saw how tight that was coming out. There was literally no grease inside here, so it was just really tight. And when I feel like I've done enough, I'll add a little bit more. Put grease in those holes right there. That should work. I'm going to put grease here like I always do, or always try to do. Eventually wipe it off as I go along and then have to do it again. But this is one of my little things that I do. So you can do however you want to do it. Adding some grease to those holes right there where the screws are going to go inside. A little bit of grease inside here, not a lot. Remember, this one was tight coming out. I think it was this one or the other one. I think it was this one. But it was tight coming out, so the more space you take up by putting grease inside there, the less room it has to drop down and seat properly. Just remember that part. That should be good for everything there. Alright, so now I'm just going to take one of the bearings, stick that on. This is keyed. So you gotta rotate that until it drops in place. Like so. And then like that. I'm gonna hold on to it and then grease around the outside of it as well. Just because. Let's go ahead and stick that in. Yeah, it's still a little tight going in, but it goes in a lot easier. Now we can cover that up. And the way to line this up is exactly that. Find the holes where it lines up and then screw it in. I'm going to get these kind of close to the bottom before I seat or snug any of these down. So snug and snug. And that's set in place. Alright, so what next do I want to do? Let's stick some bearings inside. So I'll go with this bearing first. That's all the way in, so we're good with that. Alright, so I'm going to do all this stuff inside here, and then I'm going to work on the last, which I think is like kind of the most critical part for you guys, which is that right side that has the ratchet and everything on it. So I'm just doing this part first, and then I'm going to work on that right side, or the cover side. These I'm going to grease over that post here. Same kind of thing for the block. That inside trap right there, I'm going to put a decent amount of grease inside of it. Now do remember that the more you put in there, the more sluggish this reel will be, because that's creating a vacuum as you go along back and front or left to right. So let's go ahead and stick these things in. First gonna be the block. I'm sorry, the gear. Have that post down there somewhere in that area. We can stick our block on top, looking just like that. And now we can stick our gear inside. Make sure it sits properly. And I'm going to grease this area where it's going to interact with the other pieces of metal in this area. If you want to grease the entire thing, you certainly could. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. But I will say that whenever I bring it up or even mention it, that's usually when I'll grease it. So maybe I should just stop talking about it. Goes in just like that. Make sure it goes through the block right there. So slip that over a little bit if you have to. And then this is keyed, so you got to find that slot for it as well. And you are good to go with. There we go. That's better. And that's good to go. I'm going to secure it so we can kind of get these things out of the way. That's all looking good so far. Now let's get these washers or these shims to put them over there so we don't forget them. And I'm going to grease this. A little bit more. Now we can get to the this side here, which is, I guess, the trickier of the two sides. I'm going to show you something before I start working on it, and then I'm going to try to show you as I go along what I'm referring to see if that helps you guys kind of figure this out. Alright, so I'm going to grease here, this channel right here, around there, kind of in this area, down there, around here as well. I'm looking for points of contact, so metal might be contacting here and here, definitely here will be contacting, and so that's what I'm trying to mitigate. Well, not mitigate per se, but to offset any kind of interaction with it. Now we can grease all these little metal pieces here. Alright, so before I even show you or grease this part, you'll notice that this has like a little beveled or curved down end. Hard to see here, but if you can see it, good. It's going to sit looking like this, where that curved end is going to be facing down in this direction, and that teardrop is going to be facing up, looking like that, in that direction. On the bottom of this cam here, there's a little shaft or a little post that's going to sit inside that hole right there. So this little post right here will be sitting on it kind of like that. It may not be the right setup, but it'll look kind of like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick our spring in. There's a little bump on one end looking like that. That's going to go inside. Let's fit it in and you're good. Let's go ahead and set this piece up. This cam, that ratchet right there, will be sticking up over on top of it, looking like this, kind of like that. And this piece is going to look like this, just like that. Where do I want to go? Did I miss this? We need to put it here somewhere, sorry. Get this off first. This little plastic piece, I'm sorry, a metal piece is going to go over that whole post, or that post right there, so it doesn't bind up on you. Just make sure that piece is centered over the hole and not blocking anything. Kind of like that. I'm going to screw that in right now. We're working everything else afterwards. You can certainly snug this down. I'm going to snug it down and see how it feels. As long as it can still move, then we're good. We're good. Alright. Now I'm going to take this piece here, and this is the longer spring of the two. Wrap it in somehow. Let's find a way. There's a hooked end on the bottom right there. The hooked end will be facing down, kind of like that. And then I'm going to take my pen and just work it over this other one over here. I'm going to keep my finger over this just in case it pops out on me, so it doesn't really go flying anywhere. Okay, that's what I want to do. And if it doesn't work this way, you can do it the other way, where you start on this end and then hook that end piece over here in afterwards. Alright, there we go. Make sure it's in. It's not all the way in yet. You want to make sure it goes down through the hole and not kind of at an angle. Because if you do it that way, you can snip it on you. There we go. Now it's nice and straight, as you can see. Okay, so for this part, I'm not going to put that spring on yet. So I'm going to turn it like this. I'm going to stick this in between those two slots. So in between these two pieces of metal right here, the top and bottom one. It's going to look just like this. Notice how that's coming out with that point facing up towards this hole right here. We'll have to play with that a little bit, but the end result is you want to get that post over inside that hole right there. I'm going to start it like this. That little hooked end will just kind of just go inside, and then I'm going to kind of turn it towards me so I can pull it. Kind of like that. Get my finger out of the way. Looking like that. Now I'm going to hold my finger over it, get this post inside, looking just like that, and I'm going to kind of rotate this as I lift a little bit to get this to turn and push that pin down inside that hole for that one piece that just hangs by itself. And this actually is not that difficult. So if I make it look more difficult than it should be, I apologize. This part is tricky sometimes, just because of the way the spring is set up. But this part is pretty straightforward. you do kind of want to have that kind of in the general area that it should be in, like right around there. Like that. I'm just going to turn it. Now I turned it too far. I'm going to leave it, it's a little raised up and I want to leave it that way so it doesn't drop in place because I didn't get the hole that I was looking for. So now I'm going to move this pin or that plate a little bit so I can get that hole situated just under that prong right there, which is what we just did. Once that's over it, I drop everything in place, keep my finger pressed over this area. This is already set up. And I'll show you that it is because we can take our screwdriver and just turn it and you'll see that thing moves. See? It moves, which is good. So that's set perfectly. Now, all we're going to do is hold on to this spring part versus over this post part. And we're going to take this end, turn it to where I had it before, like this, because I want to expose that hole a little bit more than it was before. And then just stick one end in, like that. And now we're going to take the other piece. Make sure you secure this so it doesn't pop up on you, because if it does, things do kind of go flying on you. I secured one end to that end over here, and now I'm just going to secure the other end to this piece right here. And sometimes doing things on camera is a lot more difficult than it actually is. So, just some word to the wise. Almost there. I'm being as gentle as I can with these springs as well because they're not like super strong. So there we go. That's exactly how it'll look. You can leave it in this position if you want to. I'm gonna hold on to this stuff while I turn or rotate that ratchet at the bottom there, because I want to leave it to an open spot, which is right about there, because I'm gonna start putting everything together now. Now at some point you have to let it go. So here we go. Don't move. Oh, I just moved it. Hold on. Hold on. I think I'm gonna work it back down. It's a little too high for me. Yeah, kind of there is better. That drops that into place, and it'll drop into this slot right here. Into that slot right there. Make sure that hole right there is open so you can stick that portion through it. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting something before I start putting this together. I think we are good, so let's go ahead and close it up. Take your time. Don't rush to the last part where it's most critical. And now we're set. It's all good. We'll test it in a sec just to make sure all it works right. But that was the main part, or the most difficult part, I think, of the reel. Drop our little pins on there. Sorry, little O-rings. Add a layer of grease around it. Same thing over this side. And rest assured, watching someone do it versus you doing it is completely different, as I'm sure you know already. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it. This is key, so I just kind of lined it up so where it sits in place properly. Take the other piece, put it on top, and then we're going to secure it. And notice I'm not putting any screws in here yet, I'm just worried about this part. Now when I screw this in, and before I go any further, I'm going to just double check this to make sure it's working properly. Squeeze this or keep it closed. I pushed it down when I was turning it, so now it should be in live liner mode. Now we're back into the full drag mode. So we know it works right. Alright. These screws are just going to add some grease to them and then get this finished up. And if you guys watch me do this entire thing without skipping ahead or whatever, I admire you for that. Because this is one of those things where it is a little tricky in certain spots, and it's best just understand what's involved versus just jumping into it and saying, oh, it went from this to this, that should be pretty easy. It's actually not that easy. But it's also not that difficult where you can't do it. I just looked at my timer on my phone, and that has been super long. I may end up having to cut some stuff out of that, I don't know. I don't want to though. Let's see how that feels. Slightly tight. Alright, so at this point I'm going to pause the camera, play with the stuff inside here a little bit, and come back to you when everything's put together and feeling good, and then show you the rest of it. Back. Now I'm just going to go ahead and stick this on there. Lock it up. Put that around there somewhere. Maybe a little too far, but we'll carry it over if it has to be. Yeah, a little bit too far. Right there, looks good. You don't want to over tighten this too much. That looks good. Alright. Put our set screw in. Get everything assembled and test it out. A little bit of grease there, so it doesn't get frozen inside. Remember, it only goes in one way, so if it doesn't go in the first way that you try it the other way. Stick our collar on there. That collar has a little slot on it that goes over one of those posts, kind of like that. Check out the drags first. Oh, that feels nice. That feels good. Nice. Alright, I don't think there's anything else for us to test there. Yeah, that's about it. Alright guys, if you found the video useful, please hit that thumbs up button And thanks for watching. Thanks for enduring this entire video, because it is a little bit intricate in some spots, and I will see you guys next time.